others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media. A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, your neighbor, David Granosky. So glad to be with you live on radio, video stream, and podcast, as well as our website, I'mNeighborsChoice.com, where we're going to look at headlines together with commentary guided by personhood, not tribalism. And there's lots to talk about in that space, as always, because the media continues to be an instruction into what not to do. You saw perhaps the reports Joe Biden's over there attacking people who don't take his big pharma products that he wants to coercively push onto people, even though he won't force the pharmaceutical companies to stand by their products like anybody else in the real free market. In a market, you have skin in the game. You can't just sell products, and especially a product that's never been rolled out before for humans, rush it through, and then say, well, you're not going to have any liability if anything goes wrong. It's just so stupid and idiotic. It's unethical. And this bozo Biden, he is a bozo because he wants to push this product. And he's over there telling people, if you don't have this product, well, you are causing people to die. Totally unethical. This guy would, he'd just say whatever the establishment tells him to say. He doesn't care about ethics. He doesn't care about anything dignified. I'm so tired of these losers like him using their voice their entire lives to push for unaccountable corporations and powerful government agencies and push Luddite groupthink. And then try to threaten people. Oh, you're causing people to die. No, you caused people to die, Biden. How many people have you caused to die? You covered up the lab leak with Wuhan. You covered that up. You lied when Trump was trying to stop some of the travel from China. You were lying and saying it was just racist. You're a scumbag. You caused people to die, you sick freak. You won't even talk about the alternative products out there that are generics, that your big pharma own, your masters, Biden, since they're generics, they don't care about those products. But you don't talk about those products. You cause people to die. You cause hundreds of thousands of people. Biden is a dumb idiot. He's a scumbag, right? Because he's trying to tell innocent civilians that he's projecting onto them his own guilt. Like always, total moral midget. No guts, no class, no dignity. There's a guy who came and used his mouthpiece, came and have his handlers write in a speech about, hey, the importance of getting vitamin D for your immune system. Scientifically validated, understood, essential component for your health. This is a guy who won't tell you anything about the importance of rest and getting rid of seed oils, because seed oils are the thing that are causing the leukotoxin, which is the pathway by which people can have severe ARDS who have this new virus. He didn't tell you any of that, does he? So he's the one that's contributed to so many unnecessary deaths. People like him. And that's what he's been doing his whole life. He shills for outdated ideas for cancer treatment. He shills for outdated ideas for healthcare management. He shills for outdated ideas for clean energy. He shills for outdated ideas for perpetual war. How many lives has he directly contributed to the end miserable deaths towards? How many lives has he caused the deaths unnecessarily? Unnecessary, gruesome deaths. So I can't stand these bullies because they have no intellectual sophistication. They have no class. They have no moral standing. And all they do is bully people with their little media lapdogs, pushing people. You have to do what we tell you. And then they have the press secretary or his press representative or whatever yesterday saying, oh, yeah, we're working to tell Facebook what to do. And we're going to talk about the people that are influencers that we don't like. These people are so un-American. They have no respect for law. They're bigots. Lawless anarchists is what we see represented in the D.C. decrepit establishment. Scapegoating innocent people for their own sins. They're the ones who stupidly funded the Wuhan lab that had dentist-level biosecurity levels. They're the ones who covered it up and sent their disinformation hyenas like Facebook to flag and shut down voices that said this is where the virus came from. They're the ones who censored generic products because they weren't patented and therefore they weren't the products that their pharmaceutical incestuous partners wanted to push. They're the ones that won't lift a finger to tell you to stop eating seed oils, which is the main driver of the comorbidities and the actual pathway by which severe ARDS can happen for people who get this virus. They're the ones who lied about the necessity for lockdowns and killed so many people from other diseases because of delayed treatment or suicide or other issues. They're the ones who killed millions of people in developing parts of the world who couldn't handle having the economy forcibly stopped by idiots like Biden types. They're the ones who have harmed people for year after year, not just with this latest scandal, but everything that you can imagine. Consistently shilling for war, consistently pushing for sanctions that harm innocent people around the world. And we are not going to allow them to project onto us their guilt that they live with and whatever part of their conscience they still haven't numbed out. That's on them. They're the ones who do nothing to tell people to get vitamin D for their immune system. They're the ones that tell you nothing about the importance of losing weight if you have comorbidities associated with that metabolic dysfunction. They're the ones who don't want to level with you and say, you know what, we've been wrong about vegetable oils. We've been subsidizing them with your money because it makes the lobbyists in big food happy, and that's what we need to get elected. And so we're sorry, we repent. Biden should repent. He's got a long list of things to repent of. Extracting wealth from poor people in countries like Ukraine, using his son as a cutout man to extract wealth for his family. Thuggish, disgusting, trash behavior. It's embarrassing. It's contemptible the way these people act. Low-class people. That's what Biden and these folks in D.C. are all about. Scapegoating innocent victims for their own wickedness. So let's not let these bullies tell us what to think. Let's not let them tell us who we're allowed to look to or listen to or what science papers we're allowed to read. We'll go ahead and take care of things from here. We're the adults in the room. They're the losers. And they're not just losers in terms of being scoundrels in their moral character, but they've cost so many people's lives and they don't have any remorse. They don't have any ability to repent and say, I'm sorry. I've made horrible, corrupt mistakes, because their entire life is surrounded by making horrible, corrupt mistakes. That's why they're in D.C. People have been talking about this presentation the FDA.gov put out. It's a meeting of the Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee on October 22nd, 2020. And it was a little scene video, but this is way back, before these products that they're pushing us to all, they're coercively pushing us all to take and put into newborn babies soon. they had a slide that got skipped by fast, but it was listing some of the, from the FDA's own research internally, some of the possible adverse events outcomes. And it's got Guillain-Barré syndrome, acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, transverse myelitis, encephalitis, convulsions, seizures, stroke, narcolepsy, cataplexy, anaphylaxis, acute myocardial infarction, myocarditis, pericarditis, autoimmune disease, deaths, pregnancy and birth outcomes, other acute demyelinating diseases, non-anaphylactic allergic reactions, thrombocytopenia, disseminated intravascular coagulation, venous thromboembolism, arthritis and arthralgia, joint pain, Kawasaki disease, multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, vaccine, enhanced disease. These are the FDA.gov's own presentation. That's a slide that they didn't really want to stick on. They skipped by it real quick. But it was just a list of possible adverse event outcomes back in October. But they didn't want to publicize that. That doesn't mean those things are inevitable, but the point is they knew that internally these are things we need to look into just to make sure we're rushing this thing out. But they don't want to talk about that. All they want to do is bully people who have a right to have health freedom. These people have trampled on the, they talk all this big game. Oh, our democracy is attacked. Our democracy is attacked. They don't know anything about government in terms of the way the republic was designed. There's total lawless people who hate the rule of law. They hate liberty because they don't want to honestly treat people with respect and say there's health freedom that is sacred. And we're not going to push kids and stuff like this into something that they have no business being pushed into. And we're not going to tolerate having a totalitarian society that is coordinating with private publishers like Facebook that get immunity from the rules of publishing in this country to go after and silence voices and bully people and have Google, skew search results, which is even more subversive than Facebook's blatant censorships and different models and Twitter and so forth. Banning people from being able to put an app on Apple Store and so forth. It's so insane what we're putting up with. The founders would be ashamed of what we're putting up with. This is not what they intended. This is a country that has become a continual abandonment of the principles of liberty. And that's why they want to demonize the past, the past values of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. We can talk about the flaws, we can talk about the shortcomings and what have you, but they want to demonize and delete it from our collective memory because they're ashamed of liberty. People who have egoism, people who are bigots, people who don't want to have accountability from the rule of law, people who don't believe in natural rights, they hate the fact that our origins was so, focused on trying to aspire to those principles. And so they're trying to gaslight their potential victims in the future by erasing the memory and slandering and otherizing and dehumanizing people who are flawed and complex people. They want to rewrite history in real time so that people in future generations and in current generations will somehow believe that only America ever had the sin of slavery, that no other countries dealt with that. Meanwhile, the facts are that many countries and other continents around the world continue to practice slavery many, 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 many years after America stopped that horrible institution in its direct form. But they don't want to have a real honest conversation about history and ethics and society and culture. Because people who don't like liberty, all they want to do is gaslight their victims so that they feel like the tyranny that they are desiring to create is comfort and is attractive. So we're not going to allow these people to bully us and tell us, oh, you have to do what we tell you or else you're killing people. No, they've been killing people with all their policies for decades. Unnecessary, horrible deaths based on their ignorant, arrogant desire for ultimate power. We'll take a quick break and return. I'm David Gronowski. You can call in at 727-587-1040. That's 727-587-1040.
Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, but Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved 2 people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com. Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a 6th-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending simple, and they take care of home buyers like family. Using technology to make everyone's life easier, FinTech Mortgage Association equips each of their loan solutions architects with the tools they need to build a career with a schedule they control, a product they can take pride in, and an earning potential that is life-changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187, Equal Housing Lender.
Mental illness is up dramatically since the epidemic hit America. Consider this from the Holy Scripture.
Prepare your minds for action, and being sober-minded, set your hope full on the grace that will be brought to you. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13.
Are you sober-minded? Do you think there's no hope? There is, and it's waiting for you at your local church. There you'll find a healthy mindset that will give you strength and wisdom. The welcoming committee is there waiting for you. See you soon.
Yeah, it's disgusting having book burners like Google have such a monopoly on basically the internet's memory archive, and they're actively tampering with the search results in real time on a daily basis. They can try to vanish people out of history because Google has become the new library, in more ways than one. And when they manipulate, they can deperson people in significant events in history. In the 90s and 1,000 years ago, anytime, right? And so that is insane that those kind of fascist-minded people, and it is people say, oh, it's not fascism. It is fascism, because fascism is not just the nationalistic part of it. Fascism is the marriage of big government and big business. It's privatized profits, socialized losses. You can call it corporate communism if you like, because these are new, evolving, versions of same old tyranny. Corporate communism is corporate profits for a few elite managing multinational corporations and communist scraps for the rest of the public. Lucas says on our comment stream, Google search result tampering is insidious, shapes how people see conditions they have. Yeah, I mean, that happens for disease too. People look up every time they have an illness, they got some kind of scary thing. Oh, it could be this, could be that, could be this. It just regurgitates the sloppy, low resolution, low info narratives on things. And that's why the Biden administration is pressuring places like Facebook, their little puppet arms, to do more to control the narratives. They are monopolists. They don't like diverse opinions. These are the types of people who would, eliminate Galileo. They would eliminate anybody who challenges reigning paradigms. They don't know what they're doing, in the sense that they don't know what they don't know. I'm giving you the charitable explanation for their horrible, awful policies of authoritarianism. I'm giving you the charitable narrative when I say it this way. But that's something that we just have to, turn the page on in this moment. We can't have these monopolies like Google controlling our collective memory online. We've got to create better products and better free market conditions. Because Google, they have an incestuous relationship with governments. They didn't get that position just purely through only their innovation. So one of the things that we look at is how these narratives are all fraying apart. They're all falling apart. Narratives about, oh, you can never look at the 2020 election ever. Oh, you can never question people telling you to buy a house that you can't afford with debt that will consume your life. Oh, no, remember they told us that? They're telling us that to this day. Oh, inflation is only temporary, Biden declares. These people are such liars. Everything they talk about is a lie, just about. I mean, that's all they do, is just figure out how to market lies to you because they don't care about you. They care about the power that they seek. And it was time for us to face facts. Scientific dissent and scientific evidence is the foundation of civilization. You destroy that like they're doing this, and you're not going to have civilization. You're not going to have basic infrastructures of cities, basic, scientifically designed, engineered machines and everything you need to function in a society. It's all going to fall apart. It's an attack on reason. It's insanity. It's mass insanity. And it's time for us to say we've had enough, and we're going to turn the page on these platforms, publishers, and liars that want to scapegoat the public for their own bad behavior. And it's not just the lies around the health thing, although that's a huge thing, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. It's on everything. Remember how they didn't want to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein thing? Now Rolling Stone has a story out. Was Jeffrey Epstein a spy? There you go. It's a start. But they don't want to talk about stuff. All they do in the Mickey Mouse press is just push narratives that advance the interests of the powerful and the elite. And I am so surprised that so many Democrats still are gullibly going along with whatever the television tells them. At what point are they going to get over their worshipful obsession with Donald Trump and start thinking clearly again? Are they going to lose their mind? Are these Democrats that are obsessed with Trump derangement syndrome going to lose their minds for the rest of their frickin' lives? Are they going to come back to their senses and realize that they're being sold a lot of garbage narratives? They kind of woke up with the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And they kind of woke up with the GameStop thing where they were all saying that anybody shorting the games, the GameStop hedge funds or whatever was basically, Russian agent. It's so dumb, these narratives. They just keep pushing them. And it's all falling apart. So this is a wonderful time to be alive because we get to see the transition between the 20th century and the 21st century. So let's make it a good one. Back in just a moment.
What's everyone saying about the all-new News Talk 1040 WHBO?
That's our big radio station, and it's one of the best news stations.
Dedication to news and information.
Because I like to get the information from what I feel like is a pretty balanced perspective.
I enjoy it.
It's not just one-sided. It tells the full story.
I'm listening to it most of the day.
Every second I can.
Tampa Bay. The news and talk of Tampa Bay.
I just love that station.
News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Coronavirus cases have nearly doubled in the last 2 weeks in the U.S. as the Delta variant spreads to areas with low vaccination rates. In Oklahoma, only 39% of residents are fully vaccinated. It's slightly higher in Oklahoma City. Mayor David Holt says he has a message for those who are still yet to get their shot.
I think at this point, if you don't have a vaccination, you've probably made some kind of decision not to get one. But I hope that this spread of this variant is the new information you need.
President Biden told reporters today when asked about the jump in coronavirus cases that misinformation about vaccines on social media, he says, is, quote, killing people. The president will spend the weekend in Camp David. Los Angeles County bringing back mask mandates starting tomorrow, even for people who are fully vaccinated. They have to wear them in public. U.S. retail sales increased in June by 0.6%, more than analysts expected. Wasn't enough, though, to keep investors from a sell-off day. The Dow losing nearly 300 points. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
And we're back on A Neighbor's Choice, live, looking at the headline news of our time with sobriety and hope in our hearts, because we think we can turn the page on this ugly, last dying gasp of 20th century ideological authoritarianism. It can look ugly on its way out of relevance. They have to put so much effort to get such minimal compliance for their dumb narratives. It's so embarrassing. But they have a, ardent cadre of people that still believe the TV party narratives every day, and therefore they've got a little bit of a following to keep going, puttering along. There's, in Breitbart, they say, this story about Mark Levin says, Jen Psaki is the best witness for the Trump lawsuit. He notes that, because Trump sued several social media giants for censoring him and others, arguing that big tech had to abide by the First Amendment since it took direction from the government about public issues such as the coronavirus pandemic. Levin noted that Psaki's arguments in the press conference yesterday had given new weight to Trump's arguments, which are considered relatively novel. Mark Levin agrees. Jen Psaki just made the case for the Trump lawsuit. Jen Psaki appeared in the White House briefing room Thursday with the Surgeon General, who had just issued a government health advisory warning of the public health consequences of misinformation on coronavirus vaccines. Later, in an exchange with a reporter, Psaki outlined the extensive measures taken by the Biden administration to police the content of information on social media platforms regarding the vaccines. And she says, well, first, we are in regular touch with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff, but also members of our COVID team, given, as Dr. Murthy conveyed, this is a big issue of misinformation, specifically on the pandemic. And so they're coordinating with these platforms to silence politically disadvantageous stories and narratives and evidence. It's beneath contempt that people in America are doing this. It should be the biggest story. That should be the biggest story right now. That should be one of the biggest stories, is this attack against the freedom of speech in America. It's just happening right in the public, and nobody seems to be doing enough to stop it, to push back. All the Republicans are just useful, idiots. They do nothing. There's only a handful that actually care about challenging this monolithic groupthink mania that DC keeps manifesting. I mean, they've got LA people wearing masks again. So stupid. Wearing them outside again. It's totally crazy. And it doesn't have to be this way. I don't know why it takes people so long to get their senses back, but they're just scared. And being scared can make you do things dumb for a long time. I want to talk about this other story that's unraveling past groupthink narratives. The media spent so much money, so much coordination. Remember, Time Magazine says there was an unprecedented coordination of NGOs and philanthropy groups, nonprofits, giant corporations, media outlets, political figures, all coordinating to fortify the election. It's garbage language. It's authoritarian language. And but they wanted to skirt around it without coming out and admitting exactly how much, interference they actually were all about. They had the McWoke crowd on standby to threaten and menace anybody who dared to challenge some of the practices that were basically unconstitutional in the way these different governors unlawfully usurped the power of legislative bodies in their states that were designed to set up the election laws to create a dubious, sketchy, unserious environment for an election. Here's a story in conservativebrief.com. We must decertify the election, is the quote. Trump issues fiery response to audit bombshells. Trump reacted to the preliminary findings of the independent election audit team that testified in an update to the Arizona Senate on Thursday. Arizona Senate hearings on the Maricopa County election audit is devastating news to the radical left Democrats in the Biden administration, he said. While this, according to the Senate, is preliminary, with results being announced at a later date, it seems that 74,234 mail-in ballots were counted with no clear record of them being sent. I mean, if that's the case, that's insane. 74,234 mail-in ballots were counted with no clear record of them being sent. Another thing he says, there were 18,000 voters who were scrubbed from the voter rolls after the election. They also revealed that the voting system was breached or hacked, he added. Very big printer and ballot problems with different paper used, etc., and much more. The irregularities revealed today amount to hundreds of thousands of votes, or many times what is necessary for us to have won, Trump continued. Despite these massive numbers, this is the state that Fox News called early for a Biden victory. There was no victory here or in any other of the swing states either. Maricopa County refuses to work together with the Senate and others who are merely looking for honesty, integrity, and transparency, he added. Why do the commissioners not want to look into this corrupted election? The highly respected state senator Wendy Rogers said in a tweet, this hearing today means we must decertify the election, Trump said. In any event, the Senate patriots are moving forward with final results to be announced in the not-too-distant future. But based on today's hearing, why even wait? Arizona Republican State Senator Wendy Rogers is calling for the Biden electors to be recalled to Arizona and demanding that a new election must be conducted following explosive news this week. Following the audit hearing in Maricopa County, Rogers is calling for Joe Biden's electors from Arizona to be recalled and for the state to hold a new election. I just said that. Why do they repeat that in the article? But Wendy Rogers says, decertify the election. Start demanding justice now. This election was stolen from us. Hold people's feet to the fire. Cyber Ninja's CEO Doug Logan testified on Thursday that the auditors reported 74,000 ballots that were received and included in the 2020 election in Maricopa County that were mailed out. Logan said they found 74,243 mail-in ballots with no clear record of them even being sent. They came back from individuals where we don't have a clear indication that they were ever sent out to them, Doug Logan said. I mean, this is crazy. This is totally lawless. Why can't we get more bipartisan interest to take these types of questions seriously? Why can't they just be honest that there's a problem here that needs serious investigation? It's because they're desperate. They're desperate. They feel like the internet world, the decentralized internet world, is really just steamrolling their transparent little garbage lies. And they're throwing out all the stops to divide us against each other. That's why they've got all this stuff whipping people up about racial tribalism. Because how can people unite to get their individual liberties back if they're so divided by their collectivist, grievances and suspicions and paranoias and so forth? And so it's so important for petty tyrants who feel cornered to say, well, hey, look over there, racial grievances, look over there, gender biases, look over there, you see? Look over there, Russia just hacked the beef people. Oh no, Russia just hacked the pipeline. Oh no, Russia just hacked. See, they're just always throwing, what do we got to do now? What's the next thing, A commenter, Nuna, says they don't care. They want globalization and they want Americans to fight each other. That's what DC does want. Because that's what's good for business. That's their business model. And DC does this all over the world. They get people to fight each other internally, and they profit from the chaos. And we shouldn't fall for that trap in our own home country. But I guess it's easier said than done when so many people are catechized and raised by government schooling. And not to say that you can't still think critically even going through that, but it makes it a lot harder to be educated about history when that, you're being educated by people who are now teaching you that math and even, classical Western music is supremacist. It's so stupid. It's so envy. It's so resentment based. It's nonsense. That's why we keep focusing on pushing you towards information that can help your health. Because if you can fix your health or prevent your health problems from happening down the road, it can improve your mental state, can improve your physical state, can improve so many different things. And that's why you want to check out on our website and our podcast and our YouTube and Rumble, our new interview with orthodontist Dr. Mike Mew from London, who talks about the importance of understanding jaw structures and the health of people and how so many people have crooked teeth and undeveloped jaws and that improper tongue posture and that the way your tongue sits in your mouth when your mouth is closed is the way it can affect your whole body posture and your back and so forth. And how that leads to sleep apnea and all these different things. And he ties it into, breast milk and how so many people are not breastfed that long, if at all, today. And how people used to eat hard foods, which would exercise the jaw. Breastfeeding exercises the jaw for babies properly. And so does eating chewy and hard foods you got to chew on. Nowadays, everything's just soft goop for most kids. And then that leads to underdeveloped jaws, which leads to some potential connections to breathing issues, sleep apnea, where your tongue is blocking your ability to get proper airflow and so forth and so on. It leads to sinus issues. And so, there's just so many things to think about in our health, and you can check that out. I want to give you facts, science-driven facts. And of course, like always, Dr. Mike Mew, being someone who's kind of a Galileo, challenging his own profession, gets witch hunted in his profession. Because nobody wants to answer the question, why do we have an epidemic of crooked teeth? Just like they don't want to answer, why do we have an epidemic of diabetes and heart disease and cancer in countries where seed oil consumption is prevalent, but not in countries, in communities where, well, not countries, but in remote indigenous communities around the world where seed oil consumption is non-existent. People thought maybe it was the excess carbs and sugar that we were eating compared to these indigenous communities, but then we find out that a lot of these indigenous communities are eating 80-85% of their caloric content from carbohydrates. Then we said, well, it's because we don't exercise as much as indigenous communities. And then we found some indigenous communities were not, they were sedentary and in some cases more. And then we said, well, it's because Americans are just eating too many calories. And then we looked at, the 1930s and 40s and 50s and so forth. And people back then, in some cases on average in America, according to the USDA studies that Brad Marshall was looking at the data, showed that they were eating 5,000 plus calories a day per person. It's almost like double from what we're eating. But they didn't have the diseases we have. So we all see that there's a correlation between the rise of the ubiquitous use of industrial vegetable oil sludge in so many of the foods you eat, canola, safflower, sunflower oil, soybean oil, all these different oils, margarine. I'm using different names that you might encounter in your daily life. And I repeat these in list because people ask me all the time, what is the vegetable oil? Is that an essential oil you put in your diffuser? No, and I'm just being funny here, but it's true. Some people have never even heard of these things. And they're so ubiquitous, and they're driving the diseases. They're driving so many of the chronic illnesses. And once you've got a debilitating disease, you can't move well, or you've got insulin, or you got all these different things, it saddles you down. And we need to be nimble and strong and healthy for our friends and our family and our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, because there's so much work to do. We can't be sidelined by diseases, because diseases discourage us. And another thing they do is they sap us of money because we have to use failed medical paradigms that our government, artificially basically mandates for so many different diseases that just mitigate symptoms but don't correct the underlying problems of metabolic dysfunction. The future of medicine, my friends, is mitochondrial health. But the media and the government, they're stuck on genetic paradigms. They're stuck on things that can be patented that mitigate symptoms but don't address the fundamental mitochondrial pathways that are being messed up. And we believe one of the prime movers of why they're being messed up is these seed oil consumptions at the rate we're eating. And I say all that just to say that I want to give you practical takeaway implementation in your life so that you don't feel powerless in this time where the media is constantly trying to create this learned helplessness, this learned powerlessness, where the only thing you have to do is go watch Netflix and numb out and then get on Twitter and troll or yell and just be a miserable, amorphous blob of sad, shrunken humanity. That's not what our goal is. And that's not what our purpose on life and earth is. We're meant to fulfill the full human potential that we've been given. And I believe if we can reclaim our health for generations to come, we'll have the ability to get past a lot of this dying scaffolding of the imperial mindset of the 20th century that persists in our time today. So we'll take a break and return in just a moment. You can call in at 727-587-1040, 727-587-1040, or send us a comment on our live stream. Again, we welcome all of the new Rumble live streamers. It's amazing. The Rumble live stream account is blowing up faster than these fake products like YouTube, who we've been with for years, And you look at our subscriber count on YouTube, and it's many, many times higher than Rumble and all these news sites. But proportionally, the amount of live streamers that Rumble will allow us to see, because they're an honest publisher, is just staggering. The proportional in terms of how many subscribers it says we have, just having started out just with Rumble just now, and how many people were actually live streaming with us on there. So that's just the beginnings of a new market paradigm shift that hopefully will be of tremendous benefit for our country and our liberty. Back in just a moment.
David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals, join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER. Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality, grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending simple, and they take care of home buyers like family. Using technology to make everyone's life easier, FinTech Mortgage Association equips each of their loan solutions architects with the tools they need to build a career with a schedule they control, a product they can take pride in, and an earning potential that is life-changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187. Equal housing lender.
A Neighbor's Choice returns. Hey, I want to know for my listeners in Tampa Bay on the radio, did you participate in the Cuban Liberty rallies? I'd like to hear your thoughts, your perspective on what happened. I'm very interested to see what emerges from these. I've been seeing different protests about the failed communist regime in Cuba. And they've been popping up around Tampa Bay and around Florida too. But particularly for my Tampa Bay audience, I wanted to see if any of you participated in those rallies and if you could give us a report about what happened and what was your experience and what were the issues being promoted. You can call in at 727-587-1040. That's 727-587-1040. Interested to see what happens with that story. And I do want the Cuban people to be free from that disgusting regime in a peaceful way, and in a way that hopefully they don't have to be transitioned to another exploitative regime that benefits Western globalists and their financial interests. Hopefully they can have their freedom, that's their God-given freedom. And So I want to know what's going on with that story. If you have something to contribute to that, call in at 727-587-1040. And meanwhile, we're going to continue to follow all these different narratives that fall apart. Remember the lab leak hypothesis. Oh, total narrative couldn't happen. I'm going to ban it. Now, oops, sorry, yeah, we're wrong. When's that going to happen for this? There was nothing to see here in the election. When's that going to happen? We're getting used to it by now. But we shouldn't go along with their lies, because their lies, like selling us on, hey, go ahead and get your newborn kid this new product that's the manufacturer doesn't want to put their skin in the game to represent liability concerns, but your baby, who's going to live many decades past all the stupid politicians who are in power making these decisions, will even be alive for. Oh, but that guy, that child of yours, no, put their skin in the game. The manufacturer won't put theirs. That's so shameful. It is repulsive to me. I just, and you can say, well, what are you going to do about it? We got to speak out about it. What else can we do but use our mouths to speak and defend the vulnerable? I mean, I spend a lot of time on this topic because I think it's so insane. How could you not, if you have any ounce of dignity, when this disease is not causing a lot of problems for kids and babies, and to have people pushing this wall to wall every day, pulling out all their clowns in Hollywood, all their clowns in music, all their clowns in social media, all their clowns in YouTube, clowns, the fake YouTube channels and the little puppets and all these people, pulling out all these useless jesters, pushing you every day. Get this product, put it in your kid. Wait till it's approved for 2 months. Then you put it in a 2-day-old. I mean, they're just insane. Madness. The madness of crowds has consumed this country. And where are the people who still have their sanity to say, enough is enough? You're not going to just take kids and put experimental products with legal immunity into them. I know that there are millions and millions and millions and millions. I know the vast majority of this country won't stand for that. Come on. What does it take for people to have their dignity and their decency back to defend people who can't defend themselves? This isn't about anti-vax or any of that stuff. It's about what's true and right. You don't put a product with legal immunity that was rushed out to market, that's never been tried before for humans before, on a disease that doesn't have any real lethality for babies, and then push this onto kids and babies. There's no excuse for this. There's no excuse. We draw the line here and we say, no, stop. In the name of God, have some dignity. Have any ounce of conscience left. Stop pushing people mindlessly to do what you do. It's all people want to do. I do this, you do this. No, you just leave your neighbor alone. Whatever happened to this? Leave your neighbor alone. Stop trying to sacrifice your neighbor because it makes you feel cool, makes you feel safe. People say that they're so against superstition, and that's all I see here. Arrogant superstition. Putting kids' lives on the line. And then they project their riskiness onto people who disagree with them. No, the burden of proof is on people who want us to take a novel product that's experimental, that was rushed through, that didn't have all the different factors explored in their rushed trials, and has legal immunity for a disease that doesn't seem to affect kids. This is insanity. It'd be one thing if kids, hundreds of thousands of babies were dying from this disease that came out of Wuhan lab, thanks to our government funding that stupid lab with dentist level security. It'd be one thing, but that's not even happening. And they're still brazenly, arrogantly trying to coerce people into doing this. This is the biggest atrocity of our country right now. And it's insane that this is not getting more pushback. Hopefully it will. We can only hope and keep working on our part to make it happen. We'll take a break and return with Sir Owen and many other news headlines. But in the moment, you can email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. I'm David Gronowski. Back in a moment.
talk, and information. 1040 WHBO Pinellas Park, Tampa Bay's all new News Talk 1040.
It's the only way I get news.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. The battle against vaccine misinformation ramping up as COVID cases in the U.S. go up 70% in this past week. Those who won't get vaccinated now facing a higher risk from the Delta variant and posing the biggest risk to others who can't get vaccinated, including children.
As he left the White House Friday to head to Camp David, President Biden was asked for his message on COVID-19 misinformations on social platforms like Facebook.
They're killing people. I mean, they're really, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people.
The president echoing comments from his top public health officials, Dr. Anthony Fauci and CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky, that cases of COVID-19 are now overwhelmingly unvaccinated Americans. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Governor John Bel Edwards in Louisiana says that state is in a fourth surge and blaming misinformation about vaccines for reversing all the progress.
So I'm calling on people not to spread misinformation.
COVID cases also on the rise around the world, including Japan, where the start of the Summer Olympic Games is now a week away. ABC's James Longman is in Tokyo and says Olympic dreams for some athletes could be cut short.
You've got to think about this as team events and individual events. If, like, one archer goes down with COVID-19, there's probably a replacement archer, a sub-archer who can come in and compete. Right. But if you've got a team like the South African rugby team and they're
The Eiffel Tower reopened, the land closed since last fall due to COVID restrictions. The City of Light once again welcoming tourists fully vaccinated. You're listening to ABC News.
I'm Dinesh D'Souza. In April alone, consumer prices increased by 4.2%, the highest bump since 2008. Higher fuel prices, higher food prices, construction costs, housing prices. Inflation isn't just coming, it's here. Have you protected your savings, your investments? If you have not yet diversified a portion into precious metals, the answer is no. Birch Gold Group is who I purchased from and who you can trust to convert an IRA or eligible 401k into an IRA backed by gold and silver. That's right. Through a little-known tax loophole, you can convert your retirement savings tied to the stock market into an IRA backed by precious metals. It's your hedge against inflation. With 10,000 customers, an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold can help you too. Get a free information kit by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. Again, text PROTECT to 989898 before it's too late.
Pope Francis has reimposed restrictions on celebrating Mass in Latin.
In a move observers say is a major pushback against the right-wing contingent of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Francis has introduced strict new rules for anyone wanting to celebrate the Catholic Mass in Latin. In 2007, Pope Benedict allowed for Latin Mass to be reintroduced into churches. The decision was seen as weakening changes made to modernize the Catholic Church in meetings in the 1960s known as the Second Vatican Council. One of the main decisions taken there was to have Mass held in local languages. Megan Williams, ABC News, Rome.
Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' space travel company, set to launch its first human space flight this Tuesday, just over a week after Richard Branson flew on a Virgin Galactic airplane to the edge of space. ABC's aviation expert Steve Ganyard.
One uses an airplane to go up to the edge of space. One is a rocket that will come back down on a parachute. Two very different ways, about the same amount of weightlessness, 3 to 4 minutes, and a lot of money.
Americans are fueling the economy with new spending as pandemic restrictions are easing up in some areas. The Commerce Department says sales at bars and restaurants rose over 2% last month. Retail sales rose a seasonally adjusted 0.6%. That's more than analysts expected, with shoppers spending more money at clothing, and also electronic stores. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
If the pandemic's taught us anything, it's that the easiest way for germs to get into your body is the nose. Navage uses powered suction to flush out allergens, mucus, and germs that cause congestion, colds, and flu, so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier. Experience Navage at zero risk. Go to Navage.com, buy Navage, and use it for a month. If you're not delighted, return it for a full refund. There's nothing to lose and a lifetime of better breathing to gain. Navage, Navhee.
Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, but Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved 2 people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com.
Broadcasting from the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gronowski. Back again for hour 2 of our broadcast today. We're going to hear from our friend Sir Owen, who's going to stop by in just a moment to give his geopolitical analysis of different world events going on in foreign policy and D.C. And we're going to continue to unpack all these little myths that are crumbling and make sense of it all together. And you can call into the show at 727-587-1040, or you can write a comment, as many do, on our live stream. And let's look at some of the comments we've had so far. And Lucas says, imagine if Google's search results took people to your videos on cancer, crooked teeth, airway, seed oils, etc. People could avoid pharmaceutical products and a doctor visit. And another says lifestyle changes may be related to some of the health problems people have. Joseph says knowledge is increasing like never before. Another says, is avocado oil good? I heard fasting is. And I've heard good things about avocado oil, but I've also, it's not the best in some sense because it's kind of a middle range from what I understand. It's certainly not like as toxic as like seed oils are, but I think some people have said that some avocado oils are diluted with other ugly vegetable oils. But I'm not sure as much about that topic. Sal says, I'm fairly new to this podcast. I enjoy the topics discussed. He says, I believe the separation of money from state to be the battle of our lifetime. Bitcoin may become very important in helping to achieve this. Yeah, I think that's definitely a factor in the emerging story of the 21st century is, can we separate state from cure? And can we separate state from money? Right? Just for starters. And then how about separation of state from energy? If we can separate the state and its crony monopolies away from our energy and therefore our transportation, and away from our medicine and therefore unleashing cures and solutions, and then away from, money, that would be the holy trifecta, right? Of breakthrough in liberty and prosperity and abundance. Another says, we are in a pressure cooker and the pressure is collectively increasing. So that's some of the things that, people have on their minds right now. Another story I wanted to get to, is a little different, is what happened with the Vatican today. The National Catholic Register reports that Pope Francis issues restrictions on extraordinary form masses in new motu Proporio. I don't know how to say that Latin term. It was issued July 16th. The Pope made sweeping changes to his predecessor, Benedict, in 2007, his apostolic letter, which acknowledged the right of all priests to say Mass using the Roman Missal of 1962. So it looks like that he's cracking down on the Vatican, the pre-Vatican II Latin Mass that had been rising in extreme popularity in the last year especially. Is he doing this because his health is on the rocks and he wants to make sure he can take a stab at shutting that movement down of returning to that Latin Mass? It'd be interesting to see what happens with that story. It's a big deal for a lot of Catholics that believe that that is the best expression of their faith. And I don't see, he says he's doing it to create unity, and I don't see how that's going to create unity at all. It sounds like a power grab that's meant to stomp out other people's opinion that happen to be the dominant way of that church's worship since it's for a long, long time, So that's the point. What we have going on right now is a lot of people feel like this is complete overreach. Don't know if you have an opinion on it, but you're welcome to weigh in the comments. Glenn Greenwald says, it's stunning how the networks who put Michael Avenatti on over and over and over depicted him as the nation's conscience and even hyped him as a serious presidential contender have all but ignored his prison sentence and multiple other pending felony trials. And as usual, the standard elite self-exoneration of we couldn't have known is utter BS. Aside from the fact that the stench of Avenatti's sleazy fraud suffocated anyone within a mile radius, countless people pointed out at the time how exploitative and dishonest he was. This passage on the role corporate journalists have played in shaping the animating worldview of MAGA supporters, the intense, often justified, seething contempt they harbor for journalists, was one of the most important passages of Martyr Maid's essay. It says, the quote is, and I've read this essay before, but many Trump supporters see clearly that the regime is not partisan. They know that the same institutions would have taken opposite sides if it had been a Tulsi Gabbard versus Jeb Bush election. Avenatti is nowhere close to the worst person promoted by CNN and NBC. They have security state goals, perjurers, and war criminals on their payroll. Bush and Obama's CIA and DHS chiefs, FBI officials, etc. Still, if you can't recognize what Avenatti is, you can't see anything. Forgot one. CNN employs the person who was Bush Cheney's NSA director on 9/11. Great job with that intelligence machine under your command, Glenn says. And who then became the Bush-Cheney War on Terror CIA chief, and liberals eat this stuff up. So they're creating this bizarre merger of the worst of the left and the worst of the right. And it's quite bizarre and disturbing to see how many people are willing to forget their principles and lap it up. And they just manufacture reality where this guy, Avenatti, was a hero until he does all this fraud stuff, and then they just act like it didn't happen. And meanwhile, you get, like they said, they've got all these folks who were doing the worst decisions that harmed innocent human lives, and they're paraded around in the press like the best thing ever. Which brings me back to Tucker Carlson. He's been going after General Mark Milley, who is the chair of, the Joint Chiefs in the military. And, he was pointing out something that I learned about when he said that it was General Mark Milley who was using his position to stop and undermine and sabotage the elected president of the United States, Donald Trump, in his attempt to wind down the troops in Afghanistan. I mean, this is, it's just insane how they're projecting. It's a madness. They're projecting what they're doing. They talk about threats to democracy. They talk about threats to the rule of law. They talk about racism. What's more racist than a General Mark Milley undermining Trump's order to end the occupation of people of color in Afghanistan? You see what I mean? These people are so arrogantly, stupidly, brazenly off the mark, politicizing everything and then projecting their wicked behaviors onto people who didn't do it. Mark Milley says he wants to learn about white rage, but what was it white rage that led him to undermine Trump trying to stop the occupation of people of color in Afghanistan? He can't answer that question because you know the answer. And the media doesn't want to ask that question because they love the answer, which is they want war, 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 war. And then the moment you say, I've had enough of the wars, they say you're a white rage person or something. What the heck? They come up with anything they can. They come up with a term any day of the week to get you distracted. Oh, you want to end the wars? You want to stop killing people of color overseas in Afghanistan? Well, you're a white supremacist. What? I mean, that's literally a psycho. That's a psychopathic, insane, demented response, isn't it? Oh, you're a voter that voted for Trump because you wanted to end the occupation, the endless occupation of people of different races and backgrounds around the globe. Well, the reason why you want to do that is because you like white people the best. What? This is stupidity. And it's amazing. The only people who really believe in this are these arrogant white liberals that listen to these CNN and NPR and all this stuff all the time. And they look at Bush officials and Obama officials come on and just spin these toxic webs of lies. But at some point, it's going to stop because there's just too many lies. At some point, people get tired of being sold a bill of goods. And I think everybody has a point where they said, okay, I'm off this train. This has jumped the shark. And I'm hoping that's sooner rather than later so that we can all unite around downsizing DC's influence in our lives and around the world. I'm tired of these people lecturing us about, if you want to stop killing people, I mean, this is basic morals. Thou shalt not kill. That includes people that live in other countries that look differently than you. How come they didn't get that memo in D.C.? And why is it that when we want to hold D.C. accountable for their reckless shedding of human life, particularly people of color around the world, they tell us we're racist? What the heck are they doing? These people have nothing to offer intellectually. They have no arguments. So that's what General Mark Milley was doing. He was undermining not only, there's so many layers of wrongness here. He's undermining the will of the people. The people elected President Donald Trump, and he wanted to end the wars. And he would undermine, okay, the commander-in-chief says we're going to end the war. Well, we're not. We're gonna slow walk it. We're going to do everything we can. We're going to push lying narratives in our reliable Pravda outlets like New York Times about Russian bounties so that it makes Trump have to slow down his attempt to end the occupation of people of color in Afghanistan. They do all of that. And then they have the gall and audacity to tell people, hey, we elected someone to end bloodshed. We don't want Afghanis being blown up or whatever. We don't want to use our troops to protect warlords with their child victims that I guess Mark Milley has no problem. That's what they do. They supported this stuff. That's what they did. It's not a speculation. That's exactly what they did. They're in for decades. And this should be shamed out of this country, this stuff. It's shameful. Protecting Jeffrey Epstein type people in Afghanistan with our soldiers. Ask Ben Adams, who's a state representative of Idaho now. I've had him on my show many times, and he recounts the horrors of what he had to do for people like General Mark Milley, who said, nope, never getting out. You just keep guarding the warlord's house as they bring in little boys and stuff. Sick. That's what Mark Milley wants to keep going in Afghanistan? Come on. It's not about him as a person. I'm not doing the whole look at you as a person. But when they use their voices to try to sow discord when people are trying to hold them accountable. It's just a classic example of scapegoating and projecting. And we ought to call it out. That's what a free press does with a conscience. I'm David Gronowski. We'll take a break and return in just a moment. You can call in at 727-587-1040. That's 727-587-1040. Or write a comment on our live stream, and we'll get to it in just a moment.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality, grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending simple, and they take care of home buyers like family. Using technology to make everyone's life easier, FinTech Mortgage Association equips each of their loan solutions architects with the tools they need to build a career with a schedule they control, a product they can take pride in, and an earning potential that is life-changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187. Equal housing lender.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa.
Not attorney spokeswoman.
Mental illness is up dramatically since the epidemic hit America. Consider this from the Holy Scripture.
Prepare your minds for action, and being sober-minded, set your hope full on the grace that will be brought to you. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13.
Are you sober-minded? Do you think there's no hope? There is, and it's waiting for you at your local church. There you'll find a healthy mindset that will give you strength and wisdom. The welcoming committee is there waiting for you. See you soon.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gronowski. We're live on radio, podcast, and video stream. Looking at some more comments, Aaron says, honestly, these ABC propaganda reports might be the best part of your show. I agree. They're pretty hilarious. The gall. I mean, it's like, you know, they say that radio is one of the few, news talk radio is one of the few medium that, you know, news sources that's not extremely left-wing, but you listen to these hard news breaks and they can make up for it very quickly with their state propaganda. In other news, the fight against the vaccine misinformation. It's like, what are do you know that you're a state media outlet, right? You're saying the fight, like you're the voice of the state, the party or whatever. I mean, it's just this groupthink mania. And they're pushing this Delta variant scaremongering thing. And there's no basis for people to be terrified of this whole deal. Commenter on our stream says, named Roxy says, Vatican trying to go hard at the traditionalists. Latin Mass is definitely more popular. Woke infestations. Another commenter says, Biden is now saying that the unvaccinated are killing people. This man is making so many of us his enemy. Another comment says, bad behavior and corruption in government will translate into shirking law and public sphere eventually. That's a great point. And I've mentioned this before, but human beings are imitative creatures. We imitate role models, right? And when the only thing you see in front of you is liars, 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 media liars. Oh, there's no lab leak. We're going to delete you. You're racist if you say there's lab leak is where the virus came from. You know, on and on and on. Oh, there's Russia agent in the White House. If you disagree, we're going to tell you you're a monster. Oh, you got to wear, there's asymptomatic spread. No, all these things were false. And they just go from one to the next. Remember they said that Officer Sicknick at the Capitol Police was, killed by a fire extinguisher, and they sent that narrative all over to traumatically, impression people to say, oh my goodness, these bloodthirsty people are trying to kill people. They were killing people. That turned out that he didn't die that way. He died of another medical condition after the event. But they don't tell you that. They just move on to the next lie. Remember they said that Assad gassed his own people as soon as the Trump administration said they weren't going to continue the war? I mean, it's just stupid to even say these things out loud. It makes you laugh how dumb this stuff is. But some people believe in this stuff. Some people are that gullible. Some people just want to be lied to. Because they just want to believe in a simple little cartoonish view of the world, wherever everything the TV tells them and everything their Hollywood stars tell them, it just exactly corresponds 1-to-1 with the way reality is. It's very embarrassing that people who are grown adults actually do that, The Hill reports that a reporter asked, what's your message to platforms like Facebook? And President Biden says they're killing people. It's so stupid. These people, Facebook's already carrying their water. If it wasn't for Facebook and Google and people like that, he wouldn't even be in that White House. But that's how arrogant and desperate these people are. That's the thanks that Facebook gets for doing all that. How much did Zuckerberg spend to make sure that Biden was in the White House? That's the thanks he gets, huh? Man. When Glenn Greenwald, a true journalist, says, are social media companies also guilty of killing people if they allow content encouraging people to be obese, to consume fatty junk food, content which glorifies cigarette smoking, and large amounts of alcohol consumption in a sedentary lifestyle? You see, these people are just pushing an authoritarian approach. You disagree with us, you're killing people. No, Biden, that's what you've been doing your entire career. Voting for reckless policies that kill people. Biden loved the war on drugs. That killed so many people that he now says that he's the bastion of minority justice. People that have real concerns about the criminal justice system. He built the whole thing. How many people die because of the obscene profits that are allowed to be made because of prohibition of drugs? The same prohibition laws that Biden championed. I can go on and on and on. These people have been recklessly, lawlessly making policies that contribute to people's early and gruesome deaths, and then they want to project their guilt onto us because we just want to be free. It's amazing. But that's the old sad song of tyrants. And I think the fact that it's more transparent than ever shows that they're cornered intellectually and morally, and they don't know what to do, so they're dropping the mask. Back in just a moment with Sir Owen on analysis from a geopolitical perspective.
of catastrophic damage up and down the Florida coast.
Storm season is here.
It is unbelievable, this storm.
The time to prepare is now.
Hopefully you can all hear me right now.
Whipping winds, relentless rain,
carving a deadly path.
We'll keep you posted if a storm is headed our way.
And the worst of it may still be to come.
Plus, we'll be with you all the way through it. Your 24/7 news and talk companion. News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Just in the past half hour, word that 49ers and Seattle Seahawks player Richard Sherman arrived in court in Seattle. He and his lawyer heard the charges, and his lawyer entered a not guilty plea. Sherman accused of a series of events involving alcohol, a car crash, and domestic violence, according to police. More California counties recommending masks indoors. The state reports its highest single-day rise in new COVID cases, over 4,600. ABC's Alex Stone.
The positivity rate is climbing rapidly here, and now one day before Los Angeles County reimposes a mask mandate for indoor public places, now 11 more counties, including here in Fresno, are strongly recommending that people return to masking whenever they're in a public place.
An order from the Environmental Protection Agency to the city of Clarksburg, West Virginia, says there are high blood levels of lead among residents, lead showing up in drinking water samples. The EPA wants alternative sources of clean, safe water in the city. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gronowski here live on radio with you, a podcast, video stream worldwide. We're coming to you to comment on news. And now we have with us our friend and frequent guest of the program, someone who focuses on geopolitical analysis in his own newsletter, Hot Politics. We have with us Sir Owen. How you doing?
Great, David. How are you today? It's good to be with you.
Yeah, it's great having you on. And I want to get to this story, just a few different smattering stories I've seen in your newsletter here. One is talking about how Nancy and Paul Pelosi are making millions in stock trades in companies she actively regulates. And this is by Glenn Greenwald, published today. And at a Substack, it says the speaker, already one of the richest members in Congress, has become far richer through investment maneuvers in big tech as she privately chats with their CEOs. So we talk about the foxes guarding the hen house. And this is kind of how it works in real time, huh?
It seems so, David. I mean, I find it has long been a fascinating phenomena of our politicos in Washington being able to regulate these people, and then at the same time they're not really constrained from investing in the companies and benefiting. It's just such a rigged game when you think about it, because if you go into one of these committees and you know that you're going to grant a special provision or a special dispensation to one of the companies that they've been lobbying for, that you can, before time, you go out and buy yourself some stock and, of course, profit from it, or whisper in your husband's ear or your cousin's ear or your cousin's cousin's ear or whomever, and give them that hot stock tip, and they go out there and invest and make money. You know, when poor Martha Stewart got, I think, a tip from her broker that she needed to sell some stock she was in, and somehow the broker seemed to have an inside way, they literally put her in prison. And but yet these people who are the major political regulators of business, and you know, that's a whole different other discussion these days, but are profiting from it very directly. And I think Pelosi is just just a blatant example. And of course, Glenn Greenwald is the best one of the best investigative reporters left on the planet. And Glenn did a great job on that story. It's just amazing, really, what they're getting away with. And the American people are so naive and credulous about their politicos in D.C. that they're busy out making their $15 an hour here working, and they just don't have time to be concerned about the billions, hundreds of millions that these people in Washington are able to rake out of their political situation simply because of their regulatory stance.
Well, we see how they regulate business, but now, of course, they're trying to drop the mask a little bit. Not trying to, they're having to drop the mask a little bit and come out about how coercive they are about our speech freedoms too. They really want to go for the jugular on the rest of the human liberties that we have. Talking about this today is, several people on the left, like, again, Glenn Greenwald and Brett Weinstein, who still have some, concern for liberties, but they still are on the left and they're Democrats. And the big thing, of course, they're saying Biden came out and said his message to Facebook for not cracking down on people who dissent against his rushed push for this product that has legal immunity. It is rushed. It didn't have the 10 to 15 years of trials it's supposed to have. Now they want to get this into newborn babies eventually. 6-month-olds is what they're trying out with Pfizer. Glenn Greenwald is pushing back, and just a few voices on the left seem to be pushing back at this notion that the White House said, hey, in their press conference, we work with Facebook, and we're going to make sure that they do more to stamp out voices who raise objections to the products that we want everyone to take, including babies. So Glenn said, seriously, who the F is the White House to be dictating who should and should not be banned from social media platforms? To keep lists of who they think are the spreaders of misinformation and then pressure companies they regulate to obey? This is pernicious. And then Brett Weinstein says the U.S. government is clearly interested in limiting speech of dissenting citizens. This is exactly what the founders feared. Disinformation portrayed as unassailable truth gives it an unmistakable Orwellian signature. Beware those cheering the censors or parroting their claims.
Well, it is amazing, and I saw it. The Biden administration has completely, if you think about it, killed the argument that, quote, it's a private company, so it's not censorship argument. I mean, you hear that all the time. Well, Facebook, and you probably and I both sort of sympathize with that to a point, but then you look at what's just happened, for instance, on Thursday, and the press secretary Psaki said, and I kept that quote because I thought it was so interesting. She says, within the Surgeon General's office, we're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're working with doctors and medical professionals to connect the medical experts to people who are popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted content. I love this trusted content. So we're helping get trusted content out there, end quote. In other words, David, if you don't find it extraordinarily disturbing that the White House is flagging internet content that they deem problematic to their Facebook allies now for removal, then you're definitely an authoritarian. There's no question about it. Greenwald was just ranting about it. He says, there is no other information needed about you to know that. There is no circumstance, none, in which it's acceptable for the White House or any other agency of the government to be providing lists to Facebook of problematic content it wants removed. Yet that's exactly what Psaki says they're doing. So, David, the White House is admitting that they're compiling lists of people who they claim are posting content they regard the political class making political decisions about who they regard problematic and that contain, misinformation, and then they're demanding that Facebook remove them. I mean, this is authoritarianism. This is the union of corporate and state power that is the classic hallmark of fascism. And that these same people now, Biden and that crew and the liberals around him, who spent 5 years, babbling about fascism, are now supporting it. Right. It's just absolutely amazing. And so the argument about that it's a private company thing, so it's not censorship, is dead. And it has been dead because all of these online platforms use censorship and algorithm manipulation to hide undesirable political speech from the mainstream public in the direct collaboration with government. So if that's not censorship, then I don't know what it is. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. I just think that I guess people are so caught up in their devotion to the establishment narrative that they don't care if all of their fundamental liberties are stripped if it means vanquishing their foes. So they're caught up in an obsession with their rivals. So if their political rivals are saying, yeah, we don't want to force people to take this product that has no skin in the game and rushed and all this stuff, therefore, well, if they're against mandates, I'm for it, and it's just, at what point do people caught up in this crowd phenomena ever come to their senses? That's the big question of our time, because we need them.
Well, you're absolutely right. And, it's even worse, David, because, Google owns YouTube, and they have been financially involved with the U.S. intelligence agency since its very inception. When Google was first formed, it received research grants from the CIA and the NSA, and it pours massive amounts of money into federal lobbying and D.C. think tanks, and it has a real cozy relationship with the NSA, which is insidious, and has been a military intelligence contractor from the very beginning. And, people need to know to what extent the federal government works with social media companies. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, is there a quid pro quo? And you and I both know that there is. The First Amendment, in fact, it just exists to keep the government from controlling what Americans hear. Free societies counter misinformation with information, not bans. So, I mean, it's just so obvious what is occurring here. It's insidious. The social media, when Justin Amash, he had a good quote on Twitter. He said, "Is there any quid pro quo?" And that's the big question. And obviously, there is. We know that when he has the goal, makes the rules. There is always a quid pro quo. So I don't know. It's very difficult, in a corporatist system of government where there's absolutely no separation between corporate power and state power, and corporate censorship is state censorship.
Right.
So the actual government, as it actually exists, is censoring the speech, not just its own people, but people around the world. If U.S. laws had placed as much emphasis on the separation of corporation and state as it had on the separation of church and state, the country would be unbelievably different from what we see today. But here's what we got, and it really looks like fascism at this point. People need to get out there, people, get upset about this, because it's something worthwhile and it's something to be upset about. When you sit down and really think about the implications for your freedom and your liberty and the information that you're receiving, and you use it or you lose it. That's the thing about freedom. You better defend it or it's going to go away.
I mean, even if this product that they're pushing everybody to take universally, even if it was a slam dunk miracle product that has zero side effects and zero anything, zero deaths, zero nothing, the perfect 100%. I mean, it's not. They just came out with a paper saying Pfizer's vaccine is proven to be not very effective at all to deal with the Delta variant that they're hyping people to get the same product for. So it's just stupid. But even if it was 100% the greatest thing ever discovered in the face of human earth, you would never still surrender all the liberties that they're doing, okay? Because they're going to do this for everything. They've already been doing this for everything, but they're going to do it in a more brazen way, partnering with media outlets to lie to you about, hey, the housing market's never going to crash. Buy a house you can't afford. They'll do that again. Hey, Assad gassed his people as soon as America announced they weren't going to bomb him anymore. These stupid narratives, they've been pushing these dumb narratives over and over again. And I guess it's a sign that they're losing their touch because it's now more blatant and sloppy and transparent than ever before. So it'll remain to see what happens in this as we continue seeing their credibility just completely exposed in the headlines every day. U.S. News.com says Miami security firm faces questions in Haiti assassination. A small private security company in Miami is facing questions about its role in the assassination of Haiti's president, the article says. So the owner of a small private security company with a history of avoiding paying debts and declaring bankruptcy, it looked like a good opportunity. Find people with military experience for a job in Haiti. And I guess that led to this deal that happened in Haiti, the assassination. Another story in antiwar.com says the Pentagon reports that Colombians were arrested in Haitian president's killing. They had U.S. training. At least one of the suspects had previously been an informant for the DEA. And so we are finding out there's lots of FBI informants in the January 6th Capitol riot, which they're using as the new basis for a new 9/11, a new war on terror against Trump supporters or whatever. So you see these patterns emerge. What's your take here on this stuff going on in Haiti? The country can't seem to catch a break.
Well, it's hard to know, David, but you can read around the periphery and have a look. Haiti has been an American satrapy, if you will, a satrap for the last 100 years. I mean, we just seem to keep our fingers in. We've invaded Haiti on numerous occasions. We put our trusted man in as president. Apparently, this last president is totally illegitimate. He was supposed to have elections a couple of years ago. Some Haitian friends of mine here in Tampa back some time ago were talking about the mess of this president who was an illegitimate president in their view and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's just, Haiti is just Haiti. It's just been a mess ever since they kicked out the French, whether it was 1798 or whatever, kicked out Napoleon's forces, and it seems like the old colonial powers have never forgiven them for it. And if they start to straighten up or start to try to institute any kind of government that looks reasonable down there, well, we or somebody come in to interfere with it. It's just it's not any of our business. And it really, what national interest does Haiti serve, to be honest, or the Dominican Republic for that, or any of the little islands down there? They're interesting, want to have good relations with them, trade, commerce, but in terms of the United States, we just don't have, what are the interests? They're not there. But yet, someone finds great interest, someone in our political process finds great interest in keeping a destabilized Haiti there. And that's the long and the short of it. So you don't know what's going on, but you have to believe that somewhere in there it's Washington. You just have to believe that whatever is going on is a machination. And I just love this. Now we're stripping off, well, this guy was a DEA informant. Well, this guy was trained by the U.S. military. Well, this little small South Florida intelligence company. Well, the question is, who hired the intelligence company? Let's get right back to that. That, to me, is an investigator. But who hired you? A little small intel company. And you better tell me very quickly. So this thing is still unwinding right now. I find it's fascinating that the Cuba thing has blown up at the same time that this assassination is going on, and I almost wonder if it's not a distraction to distract away from the Haitian thing, or what? I mean, if things are just, you're in the puzzle palace when you start dealing with Washington and its machinations. I mean, it's just no way to know what is occurring. People out here are fed from this corporate media. We were just talking about the collaboration between the private companies and who are in the media business and the government with respect to the censorship and all that sort of thing. Well, we get our information from these same people. So, you pay your money and you take your choices. And unless you really have the time and the money and the leisure to go and look into these things, which 99% of the people don't in our country, then you're probably never going to really know what the truth of the matter is. But there's one thing you can know, and that is that there is no scenario that is too improbable to think about, because as bad as your worst dream, they've done it. They have done it in spades and continue to do it. So that's the way it goes.
Well, Sir Owen, it's always great having you on the program, and thanks for stopping by. I want people to check out more of your commentary and news analysis by subscribing to your newsletter. You can do so by emailing.
They can drop me a note at tamarind@hotpolitics.com. Be glad to put them on the list. We're not selling anything. We're just emoting. They will enjoy it.
Well, very good. Thank you for your time. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye.
Back in just a moment for more on A Neighbor's Choice.
Hello, this is David Kronosky with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality, grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa.
Not attorney spokeswoman.
Hi, this is Gary from Good Faith Homebuyers, and I buy houses cash. If you own your house and want to sell it fast, call me at 727-330-6224. That's 727-330-6224. I can pay cash and close fast. I buy houses in any condition, any price range, and any location. I'm not a realtor or associated with any realty company. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month and wants to buy more. I'll buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I'll even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that is trash and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, because I love buying junky houses. I buy vacant houses, abandoned houses, condemned houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 727-330-6224. That's 727-330-6224.
So glad to be back with you. This is A Neighbor's Choice. We're live. Our website is aneighborschoice.com, where you can sign up for our email subscription, where you can get all of our content delivered to you, as well as our online-only content. We do this live broadcast with you 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. But we also do online-only podcasts like our new interview with Dr. Mike Mew, who is the orthodontist, changing the game about how important our jaws and our structures of our mouths are, our faces, how our faces affect our other different health effects like sleep apnea and other diseases that seem to be connected to chronic illnesses. It's one of those things that we must always look at a 360 perspective about different facts related to our health, and then tie it all together with holistic kind of frameworks for moving forward to make ourselves better. Here's a quote I found on from the Dune book, one of the Dune books. It says, "Most civilization is based on cowardice. It's so easy to civilize by teaching cowardice. You water down the standards, which would lead to bravery. You restrain the will. You regulate the appetites. You fence in the horizons." And there's some truth to that. This idea that, we have to, follow the herd is basically, in some ways, it can be a cowardly thing. And other times, if everybody is running away from a fire, there's wisdom in following the crowd. But oftentimes when there's a lot of multiple factors involved and there's a lot of passions and envies and tribalism, it's very dangerous to go along with whatever the TV is telling you every day. You must do this. You must do this. People, they don't want to believe that people could lead them off of a cliff when they have power. People respect power. And when they see, well, wait a second, all the most powerful TV networks and all this are all saying the same thing. They're powerful equals they're right. I go with them. That's just a hardwired thing that humans do when they're scared and they don't know what to do. And it's just pretty disturbing to see how long people will hold on to those things, even when reality keeps crashing down on their flimsy narratives that they buy into. And so that's why we just have to keep working together, neighbor to neighbor, to make our communities safer, more prosperous, more beautiful, staying out of debt. I think we should get out of consumer debt. And if you have personal consumer debt that's too obscenely high, just declare bankruptcy and stay out of the system. And if it's manageable, pay it off quickly and then stay out of debt going forward. Buy things that you can afford when you have the cash to buy it. And I know that's hard for some things that people want, but it's not as hard as people think. They've just been trained that they've got to have addictions to credit to make it in this world. That's just totally fantasy. It's just keeping up with the Joneses mostly. And another thing we can do is get out of government schools. If you have the ability, please do whatever you can to get your kids out of these failing government schools. It's time to make an exit from these failing institutions. Another thing we can do is get rid of seed oils, these vegetable oils that our government has subsidized to our health in a detriment. Checking the labels when you go to the grocery store, looking for products, asking restaurants when you eat food, can you cook my food in 100% butter or coconut oil or something that's healthy, not these toxic seed oils that are so dirt cheap but so bad for our health, especially long-term accumulation of these byproducts that they produce in our body, mutagenic effects. And so another thing we can do is just looking for Galileos to learn from, looking for people who are challenging groupthink in different fields, looking to the voices who, the TV media never really reports on. Doesn't mean they're all right, but it means if we have discernment, we can find the truth and we can share it with future generations to ensure that their lives are better than ours. I'm David Gornosky. You can email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Again, go to our website, aneighborschoice.com, and sign up for our email list so you can keep up with our content. But for now, Godspeed.